Hello, everyone. Greetings. My name is Gene Rice, and I am your facilitator for this broadcast. Thanks for joining in. Hope your day is going well. Hope your week is going well, and we are excited to be here with you today. All right, we're going to continue our discussions about academic performance for this academic school year, and we hope that your student is doing well. Hope that they're off to a good start. We want to continue our discussions around their learning and their learning experience. We don't claim to be an expert, but we want to definitely use our own experience plus different tools and strategies that we've used over time. All right. And we know that a lot of these tools and strategies and methodologies, they're pretty common across many different disciplines. And we want to just work with our students and make sure that we empower them to have the maximum opportunity to grow in their learning experience as well as achieve and hit their targets and their goals in this year. So what we want to do right now is I have here a tool that we use within our program, and it's based on the academic school year for the Valdosta City School System. That's the system that my 12-year-old son is a part of. And so I just want to give just some information, just some thoughts in terms of how we can check, parents in general now, how we can check just to check on their progress. So they started school on the 10th of August. All right, 10th of August was their first day of school. All right, and if we fast forward to today, today's the 14th, they are entering into their 6th week of school. All right. So technically, they've completed approximately 5 weeks of school so far, and they're entering into their 6th week. So they're more than halfway complete on their first 9 weeks. Now we have an opportunity to see how they're doing, how they're progressing so far, and we can see what things are working for them, what things are not working for them. And hopefully, we're having conversations with our students and getting their feedback just from their perspective. How is the academic sessions or how's the classes going? You know, what kind of rapport do they have with their teachers? Are they understanding the assignments? Are they waiting until the last minute? Or do they have a plan in place where they are progressively working on the assignments so that it doesn't pile up in one particular area? And then we do that thing called cramming to complete assignments, cramming to learn material, cramming to take a test. We want to reverse course, and we want to change the paradigm to where, one, we even get in front of the assignment. So we have different frameworks that we use to prepare for assignments before they're even assigned. So that when they're assigned, we have a plan and a system in place of how we're going to break that assignment down into increments, smaller increments, so that it is manageable, all right? Because they have more than one subject that they're working on. So we have to consider the workload, the total workload, and we want to break it down into smaller increments so that they're able to make progress over time, so that whenever they hit these milestones, such as an assessment or a test or a project, they don't feel that feeling of being overwhelmed as it relates to their academics. So just your thoughts. I mean, so far, like I said, 6 weeks, 5 weeks in, by now we know that there are probably at least a few tests that have been administered, definitely some classwork and homework assignments. By now they are fully engaged into certain competencies, certain tasks and skills, depending on what subject we're looking at. And they're actually within the next 3 weeks, really within the next 2 weeks, are going to be hitting a peak in terms of the block of instruction for the first 9 weeks. All right, it's something to think about, something to consider, that generally within a 9 week period, there may or may not be some type of special project that's due, some type of major assessment or summative assessment that's coming due, as well as any missed assignments and homework assignments will be coming due within the next couple of weeks. It's something for us to consider and think about, because we want to make sure that we at least get the work done, to at least give ourselves a chance to make the best grade, the best possible grade, and to do the very best possible job that we can do on those assignments. Because if we don't submit the work, we can't get a grade, and already that is counting against our students. So we want to definitely make sure that they are at least mindful and aware of what's coming due, the timeline, about 2 weeks. So, they're really going to be hitting in and testing to see how much they've learned so far, how well they're progressing in the material so far. And so within the next couple of weeks, it's going to start to hit that peak for the first 9 weeks. And then by the time they hit about the 5th or 12th, about Columbus Day weekend, is when the 9 weeks generally ends, based on this timeline and based on this start date. All right. And it gives a marker of, where we are now and where we're going. Okay. So one more thing I want to hit as it relates to just an update. There are some different tools depending on what school system you're part of. And I already know, or I can imagine that, most parents are already fully aware, fully know all of this information that I'm sharing, but just for the sake of providing information, what's unique about the school systems now compared to when I was coming along is parents can know exactly what their student is doing in most cases, starting with Google Classroom. A lot of teachers are posting assignments onto Google Classroom. They're updating the curriculum and the activities and focus for the week. Is generally done on a weekly basis, so you can have an idea of what they're going to be teaching and what the student is going to be engaged with for the week. It also lays out the assignments for the week, and in some cases, some teachers actually post the grades of completed assignments from the previous weeks. And so you can start to get a picture of what the student is doing in real time. So you don't have to wait necessarily for the progress reports, which generally hits about now or next week for a lot of classes that's on a similar framework. You don't have to wait until those time frames to understand, how well your student is doing. But they have these different online tools and resources available now. You can check every day if you like, or definitely at least once a week, to kind of see what the student is doing and how well they're progressing so far. And it allows us as parents to engage in the process and figure out, if something is not going well, then we can start, more targeted conversation with our kids and figure out what's going on, whether it's just they're not doing it, or whether there's a lack of understanding, or there's some type of support that's needed. And we can go ahead and implement, those intervention tools early on in the process, so that we can make sure that that gap doesn't widen as they move forward. And so the Google Classroom, the Google resource, is an excellent tool that we as parents can use to kind of monitor progress as they move along. The other thing that they have as well, I know within the Valdosta City School System, they have the parent portal. All right. On the parent portal, they have different tabs there. Those tabs may not always be filled out, but it has a curriculum there. I've noticed that a lot of them don't necessarily have that part filled out because they are actually using the Google Classroom for that function. But they also upload grades onto the parent portal on the grade book tab. All right, so you can actually monitor official grades, grade point averages, things like that, just to keep updated with your student. So those were just a few things that I've noticed so far. Just monitoring and tracking along with my student, who's a seventh grader, just to kind of see how they're doing, see how certain teachers are uh, delivering the assignments, and just to start that process of just tracking how well they're moving throughout the 9 weeks. All right, so that's that. So I'm going to use this particular session as a segue into our continued discussion about the influence and impact of the home environment on as it relates to a student's academic performance. All right. But before I do that, I want to just simply highlight a few things that I've learned from my own son. All right. What I've noticed, and this is not anything new, but it's definitely, what can I say? It definitely reinforces um, certain things that are in existence. My hat's off to the teachers and educators within the school system, because as we've highlighted before on this broadcast, is that if, given a perfect situation, a perfect scenario, if the only thing we had to really worry about is just simply getting the work done, our students will have a very good chance of meeting all those requirements and getting the work done, even if the work is difficult, even if the course has a lot of assignments and different things that they're trying to cover within a short period of time. Even with all those different factors, our students still have the ability to get that done. Now, what makes it even more challenging is all of the other stuff that our students are having to face and deal with, such as their classmates and what their classmates bring to the learning environment. All right. And we know that in that learning environment, because the density is so tight in terms of the number of students that's within a school system, our kids are going to hear all kind of stuff. They're going to be exposed to all types of things. So where you may try to protect or reserve certain things for a certain period of time for your student in school, you might as well go ahead and get ready, because 9 times out of 10 they're going to face and hear all types of things, probably before you're ready to deal with it. All right. And a lot of that has to do with the content that's on social media. And we know that it's wide open. They call it the World Wide Web. That means it's wide open, which means that unless parents have put certain controls on the systems that are used to access the World Wide Web, that means that they can get access to anything that they can think of or imagine or that they've been exposed to. All right. And then in some spaces, which relates to our topic, some spaces, in the home space is unregulated. All right. The parents it's open season. I mean, kids are able to do what they want to do. There's no restrictions, there's no guidelines, there's no structure, there's They can do whatever they want to do. And they come into that learning environment and they're going to be talking about the things that they find interesting. All right. And on some of the material, I would say, and I would just come from a parent perspective, it's not healthy. All right. It's not healthy for a number of reasons. One is they're still learning the world. They're still learning how things operate. They're still learning themselves. They're still learning people. They're still learning how to interact socially. So when certain things are presented to them, they may not have the capacity, they may not have enough experience, they may not have enough resources to really understand what they're looking at and put it in a proper context. And if they start to internalize some of these things without having some context, without having some level of maturity to understand what they're looking at and then what to do with it afterwards, it could very well cause them to become distracted and to start moving along a path that has absolutely nothing to do with academics. All right. Has absolutely nothing to do with their learning in school. All right. And so therefore it's important that we also consider not just the academics that are involved and the standards, not just our expectations of our student, but we also should consider the totality of the environment in which our kid and students are operating in, and take all those things into account, that they're not only just getting an education from an academic standpoint, but they're also getting an education as it relates to everything social. They're getting an education on what's out there in the world, especially on the World Wide Web. And they're also getting an education about different topics in different areas in life that we may not be aware of. All right. And all of that is important as we start to peel back the onion, so to speak, to understand what is what are the things that our children are learning in school? Because I promise you, it's more than academics, and in some cases, those things are more attractive than getting work done. Which brings me back to my original point: having certain conversations with my 12-year-old is that they contend with a lot. They're trying to find themselves, discover who they are as they go through these different changes and stages in their development. That who they were as a youth obviously is not who they are as a preteen. All right, and then who they are as a preteen is not going to be who they are as a teenager, and their environment, who they're having conversations with, who they're hanging out with, is also contributing to their outlook, their perspectives, as well as their thoughts about education. All right. And what I found out in talking to my son is, and I'll try and dial it back just a little bit, is helping them see the bigger picture at such a young age as best as you possibly can. Because there's a familiar scripture in the Bible that says the blind can't lead the blind, right? So how can the inexperienced lead the inexperienced? And so you have the leaders within a particular class or within school, they know everything. And I had several people tell me that they know a lot because of Google. They can search for it on the search engine and they can know anything they want to know. It's one thing in having information, but it's a whole nother ball game in having the experience to interpret the information. And again, knowing what to do with the information. So I find myself listening a lot, just so he can, share about, some of the conversations, some of the things he's exposed to, and I'm quite amazed. But then I also tried my best to take the opportunity to provide some context around the information, around the conversations, and also try and highlight what the bigger picture is. Okay, so just a few thoughts up front. So I want to take the next 3 to 5 minutes and just talk about the subject, the home space. The home space. This next 3 to 5 minutes are simply is going to be my commentary. All right, I'm not going to have an official lesson that I'm going to follow on this, but we will follow one on the next session. But this is simply my commentary. My take is that the home environment plays a significant role in a student's ability to get their work done, and that's first and foremost, is actually being able to get the work done. That's a task within itself. Understanding, one, is the entire subject, is it a subject that they have, is it a subject that they're strong in, or is it a subject that they're weak in, or somewhere in between? That's good to know up front. Some students are good at English, anything dealing with literature, communication, and writing. That's a strong space for them. And sometimes there are students that are good in that area, but they're not good with mathematics, reasoning, and logic, and calculations, all those things. Sometimes people hit the opposite on those ends. And then you have some people that are good in math, but they're not good on the other side in terms of grammar and English and literature and things like that. So it's good to know up front, is this a subject that they're strong in or weak in? From there, it's good to understand what type of material will they be covering over any given period of time. Is this material something that falls in at the foundational level, and the teacher is going to take it step by step because they want to make sure that the foundation is laid properly, that they understand the important concepts that are at the foundational level, and for obvious reasons, because if you can't get the understanding of what's at the base, then as they start to build, how can you build on something that you don't even have a good understanding of at the baseline? So it's important to know whether or not they are, what they're covering, because then that helps us as parents to reinforce what is taking place in the classroom. So having that understanding is important. And then from there, what are the assignments? Now I'll be honest with you. Now, this one is very interesting because I know when I was coming along in school, it was automatic. You were going to have homework. All right. You were going to have homework. I know in some classes that homework assignments are not really given, that all of the work is done inside of the classroom. All right. So it's important that if you as a parent don't have any visibility of what's going on as it relates to homework, we have to find a way to understand what they're doing inside of the class and how well they are understanding the material inside of class. All right. So that's another piece. One is this a natural strength for them? Two, what type of instruction is being administered? Is it something at the foundational level, or have they started the process of building? All right. And then two is, as a parent, do we have an understanding of how work is being assigned in the classroom? Because if we're able to at least achieve those things that we just mentioned, now we can provide the proper reinforcement and support from home. And it also allows us to understand what's taking place inside the classroom. And hopefully, if we need to engage the teacher, we're able to have very targeted and very focused conversations to make sure that we're getting the student everything that they need to learn the material and get the work done. That was a lot. So that the whole point on everything I just said was a student must first be able to get the work done. They must first be able to get the work done. And so having that understanding from the home space is very important, is that we must first enable and empower our students to be able to get the work done. Now, on top of getting the work done is how well are they getting the work done? Because we don't, first step, get the work done. Second step, how well are they getting the work done? So now we want to build upon whatever their proficiency level is. Again, if it's a strong subject, we know that a lot of these things are going to come natural to them because they have a natural skill, a natural ability, a natural talent for this particular area. And so where some students may have to work hard, there are some students in some areas, it just naturally comes to them. And so we want to make sure that they're able to get that particular thing done in terms of how well. If it falls in a category where they're not able to get it well, so now we start to think about what can we do to improve that performance? What can we do to raise it? For some, it may require more time with the material. For others, it may require some skilled assistant, such as a tutor, maybe more time with the teacher, maybe occasionally having some type of after-school meeting with the teacher. I don't know if they do those things or not, but that's a possibility. And you also have different resources on YouTube where there are different people that, depending on what the area is, they have instructional videos there that can be used as reinforcement. So yeah, those are just a few things that we can do to elevate in terms of how well a student is doing in a particular class. So I'm gonna hit one more thing, and then I think I'm going to close this session out. So again, looking at it from the home perspective, all right, we want to make sure that when they're able to get the work done, that's the main point. And how do we ensure that? We ensure that by, do they have a natural inclination for this? Do they have an understanding of what level they're at in terms of the instruction? Do they understand how assignments are given? And then finally, just how well are they able to do the work? And then if they're able to do the work, how well are they able to get the work done? And then from there, what type of assistance do they need in order to raise their performance and proficiency level in a given subject? All right. So now that is the goal of just a piece of how the home supports academic performance and excellence. That's just a piece. All right. Imagine if that home environment is not structured in such a way to provide that type of support. Think about that for a moment. Because we laid all that out for a reason, because there are a lot of homes, there are a lot of parents, they do just that and more in terms of what we just laid out. But imagine a student coming from a space where that is not being done. Someone has to, who's providing the oversight? Question. Who's conducting the checks? Question. Who's providing feedback to that student? Another question. Who's letting that student know what they're doing well in and what they're not doing well in? Another question. Feedback is very important. You will find no athlete that is able to perform and perform well and perform intelligently in the sport that they're in without that coach giving them continuous, targeted, and focused feedback. When you go to any type of practice, it is a whole hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, just continuous feedback, layered feedback on top of feedback, and it is precision, it is accurate feedback throughout the entire process, because that's just how important sports is. Sports is important. You hear what I say? Sports is so important that they have someone there with them throughout the entire process providing feedback. All right. So it's important that our students in their academic work, they need feedback as well, even more so, because football, baseball, basketball, tennis, golf, track, and any other sport that is played is seasonal. It's seasonal. It's not done throughout the academic, it's not done throughout the entire year. It's seasonal. And unless you are of the caliber where you're going to get a scholarship, it's seasonal as it relates to school. All right. And for some that gets the scholarship and they move on to college, you got to perform at a certain level to go to the next level. And so if you don't have that type of performance to go to the next level, guess what? That performance, that thing is seasonal in college as well. And then we're left with the question, what do I do next? That's the question that a lot of students have. What do I do next? All right. And so just imagine, going back to that original point, just imagine if no one's there to provide that continuous feedback, that continuous pressure about academics from the home space. Students are going to begin to think that's not important. That's not as important as sports. Think about it. If everybody is all into sports and they have more than one coach as it relates to sports, they have the head coach, they have a defensive coach, they have an offensive coach, and then they have specialty coaches, and then they have trainers and all types of things. All these things are geared toward building up the athlete so that the athlete and the team is able to perform. They're going to be like, man, this is important. This is valuable. All right. But if the only person that cares about a student's education is the teacher, what is that going to speak to the student? What is that going to say to them about what's valuable and what's not valuable? And God forbid that they have a teacher that does not even care. All right. Then what? What happens with their mindset about education then? All right. So again, this is just one area of how the home plays a critical role into a student's ability to get work done. We're not even talking about academic performance or excellence yet. We're just simply talking about being able to get work done, and then get work done well. Because there's no need in having a conversation about performance or excellence until they first are able to get the work done. All right. So again, that was my commentary for this particular session. Now, the next session, we will actually go through some statistics, go through some research, and provide a little more context, a little more evidence-based information as it relates to how the home plays a significant role into academic performance. All right, once again, before we go, if you have not enrolled your student into this program, take the opportunity to go to generice.com. Under the programs tab, we have 3 packages there. We have a standard, advanced, and premium package there that your student can enroll in. Now, in the standard package, they're going to get training, specific tools, specific things that the student can do in order to be successful, to build their toolkit so that they have these things at their disposal so that they're able to, one, get the work done, and then be able to leverage these tools to achieve performance and success. All right. And so we're going to give them specific things that they'll be able to do, such as note taking, time management, how to prioritize their work, how to understand how different things are graded, how to break their work down over time and over space so that they're not cramming at the last minute. So those are just a few things that the training will cover. We'll also provide training as it relates to how to consider and account for those things that fall outside of the academic space, such as those social things, because social circles and the different people within a social circles, they can either reinforce what you're trying to achieve, or they can take away from what you're trying to achieve. And so we want to just acknowledge that those things are factors into their experience, and maybe give them some strategies and tools on how to account for those distractions, or how to integrate, where those social circles are reinforcing, how to integrate those to build strength in terms of academic performance and work, man. That is something else. So that is training. All right. And then from there, when you go to the advanced, you get the training and you get coaching support. So now we're coming alongside the student and the parent just to make sure that all the information that we have, taking into account all the requirements that are coming from the classroom, making sure we have an integrative plan and approach that allows that student to be successful, to achieve success in terms of getting their work done and achieving their goals. All right, coaching support. And then the premium, you get the training, you get the coaching, and portfolio development. Now, portfolio development is more than the grades that are being posted on those in the grade book, online grade books. All right, that gives us information, but how can we expand upon not just the grade, but how can we expand upon the work that's being assigned, our students' engagement with that work, and then how they're performing based on that engagement that they have with the work. All right, and building an understanding around that experience so that, one, we build proficiency within the entire learning experience, because that's the goal. We want to build proficiency within the entire learning experience so that they're able to accelerate. All right. We don't want them going, level across the board. But once they understand how they learn and how to approach the learning experience and how to achieve the results that they want, and they understand that it is a process that they can use. Some of it is art, but a lot of it is actually science-based. All right. Then they know that they have a formula and they have a system in place that's going to allow them to achieve their goals and hit their targets. And that's what we want to do. And that's what the portfolio development does. It gives us a bigger picture than just a grade. All right. So if you have questions, though, you want more information about that program, again, go to the website, and in the contact us, just fill out the form, and we'll get back to you and get you more information. Final comment: do not allow those investments, cost or investment amounts, detract you from participating in this program. We have scholarships available. And even more so than that, I'm interested in, along with you, in your student success. So do not allow that to detract you. Just simply go to the contact us. I will contact you, and we will have those discussions because we really want your student to participate in this program. And again, they're 6 weeks, approximately 5 to 6 weeks in, or less than that, depending on when your student started. And so we want to give them the best possible chance to reach their goals, to reach their targets early on in the process. All right. And when they're able to hit those targets and goals, it builds confidence. All right. And we want our students to have a high level of confidence when they're going to school. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience throughout this broadcast. And we look forward to sharing with you real soon. Until next time, you all take care.